Every decision starts with her. Every plan waits for her answer. One day you look in the mirror and realize you've been slowly disappearing from your own life. That's how many men lose themselves without ever noticing. Stoic philosophy offers a different path. In this video, you'll discover 9 mistakes intelligent men avoid in relationships, and why the final one is often mistaken for love when it's actually the fastest way to lose both your peace and your self-respect. The first mistake is revealing your entire past too soon. Many men believe complete openness creates instant trust. In reality, trust isn't built by unloading every painful memory in a single conversation. It grows through consistency, character, and time. Your past contains lessons that shaped you, but not every chapter needs to be opened for everyone. Some experiences deserve to remain personal until a relationship has earned that level of confidence. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche warned that old ideas have a way of returning to challenge us. The same can happen with old wounds. When deeply personal experiences are shared before genuine trust exists, they can be misunderstood, judged, or even brought back into future conflicts. Vulnerability is powerful, but timing determines whether it strengthens a connection or weakens your position. A stoic man doesn't hide because he's afraid. He exercises judgment because he understands that wisdom includes knowing what to say, when to say it, and to whom. Privacy is not deception, it's discipline. Let people discover who you are through your actions first. Character always speaks louder than history. As mutual trust develops naturally, the important parts of your story will find the right moment to be shared, and they'll carry far more meaning than if they had been revealed on the first date. The second mistake is fearing solitude more than the wrong relationship. That fear quietly pushes people into choices they would never make if they were truly comfortable with themselves. Aristotle said that knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. That becomes almost impossible when you constantly need another person's presence to feel complete. If being alone feels unbearable, you'll begin accepting behavior you should question, lowering standards you once promised never to compromise, and confusing attention with genuine connection. Stoicism teaches a different perspective. Solitude is not a punishment, it is training. It gives you the space to strengthen your values, sharpen your thinking, and build a life that doesn't depend on someone else's approval. There's a powerful difference between being alone and being lonely. One is simply a circumstance. The other is a state of mind. A man who enjoys his own company enters relationships because he wants to share his life, not because he needs someone to rescue him from it. Ironically, this mindset also creates healthier relationships. When both people choose each other freely instead of clinging out of fear, respect grows naturally. There's less pressure, fewer insecurities, and far more room for genuine connection. The goal is never to avoid relationships. The goal is to make sure your next relationship is a choice made from strength, not from the fear of being by yourself. The third mistake is giving away your time as if it's unlimited. Most people don't notice it happening. A few extra hours here, constant texting there, rearranging your schedule again and again. Eventually, your entire life begins revolving around someone else's calendar. Seneca reminded us that life isn't short. We simply waste much of it. Nothing proves that more clearly than sacrificing your goals, routines, and ambitions to constantly seek another person's attention. Your time is the one resource you can never earn back. Money can be recovered. Opportunities can return. Lost time never does. Every hour invested in one area is an hour no longer available for your health, your purpose, your family, your friends, or the skills that shape your future. A stoic man doesn't measure love by how much time he gives away. He measures it by the quality of the time he shares while still honoring the responsibilities that make him who he is. Healthy relationships don't require you to abandon your mission. They encourage it. When both partners respect each other's time, personal growth becomes something they support together instead of something they compete against. Protect your schedule the same way you protect your values. Make time for the people who matter, but never at the cost of becoming a stranger to your own ambitions. The strongest relationships are built by two people with meaningful lives, not by one person giving theirs away. The fourth mistake is waiting for someone else to validate your worth. It's one of the quietest traps a man can fall into because it feels harmless at first. You work harder for their approval. You chase one more compliment, one more sign that you're enough. Before long, your confidence belongs to someone else. Epictetus taught that true fulfillment comes from mastering what is within your control, not from chasing the admiration of others. The moment your self-worth depends on another person's opinion, you've handed them authority over your emotional state. Think about how many victories go unnoticed because you're too focused on whether someone else is impressed. You reach a goal, solve a problem, become more disciplined, and instead of feeling proud, your first thought is whether they'll recognize it. If they don't, the achievement suddenly feels smaller. A stoic mindset rejects that pattern. Your progress should never require an audience to be meaningful. Every promise you keep to yourself, every habit you build, every challenge you overcome is evidence that you're becoming stronger, whether anyone applauds or not. Confidence isn't created by compliments. It's created by repeated proof that you can rely on yourself. When you learn to respect your own progress first, other people's opinions become welcome, but never necessary. Celebrate your wins, even the quiet ones. They're the foundation of genuine self-respect, and self-respect is far more attractive than constant validation seeking. The fifth mistake is sacrificing your mental peace to keep someone else happy. At first, it seems like kindness. You stay silent to avoid conflict. You ignore your own needs to protect theirs. You convince yourself that enduring the stress is simply part of caring. But over time, the cost becomes impossible to ignore. Imagine setting your own house on fire just to keep someone else warm. That's exactly what happens when you repeatedly neglect your emotional well-being for the sake of another person. You may preserve the relationship for a while, but you slowly lose the stability that made you capable of showing up in the first place. Stoicism teaches that your mind is your greatest responsibility. You cannot think clearly, act wisely, or love well if your inner world is constantly in chaos. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's the foundation that allows every other part of your life to function. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations or refusing to make sacrifices. Every healthy relationship requires compromise. But compromise should never become a one-way pattern where one person's well-being is exchanged for the other's comfort. Mutual respect means both people care about each other's emotional health. Here's a question worth asking whenever you feel emotionally drained. Is this situation asking me to grow, or is it asking me to abandon myself? The answer often reveals whether you're building a healthy connection or slowly losing your identity. Your peace of mind isn't a bargaining chip. Guard it carefully, because once you protect your inner stability, your decisions become clearer, your confidence grows stronger, and every relationship in your life benefits from it. The sixth mistake is pretending to be someone you're not just to be accepted. It often begins with small compromises. You laugh at things you don't find funny. You agree with opinions you don't believe. You hide parts of your personality because you're afraid they won't be appreciated. Over time, those small compromises become a version of yourself you no longer recognize. The physicist Albert Einstein once observed that being overly concerned with what other people think is a prison of its own. Stoicism reaches a similar conclusion. The more your identity depends on pleasing others, the less freedom you actually have. Many men mistake people pleasing for kindness. They're not the same thing. Kindness is honest and respectful. People pleasing is driven by fear, the fear of rejection, conflict, or disappointing someone. Decisions made from fear rarely lead to genuine respect. A stoic man understands that saying no is sometimes more loving than saying yes. It protects his values, his time, and his integrity. When your words consistently match your beliefs, people know exactly where they stand with you. That kind of authenticity builds trust far more effectively than trying to satisfy everyone. Here's something worth remembering. Anyone can admire the version of you that's designed to please them. Far fewer people will truly value the real you. But those are the relationships that last, because they're built on honesty instead of performance. Live in a way that allows you to sleep peacefully at night, knowing you were genuine. The right people won't expect you to wear a mask. They'll respect the courage it takes to take it off. The seventh mistake is abandoning your own path to fit into someone else's life. It rarely happens all at once. It happens through small decisions that seem harmless in the moment. You postpone a goal, you give up a hobby, you stop pursuing the future you once imagined because you're trying to match someone else's direction. Seneca warned that a person who tries to be everywhere ends up nowhere. The same principle applies to your purpose. If every major decision is based on someone else's expectations, you slowly drift away from the life you were meant to build. Think of your purpose as a compass. Every time you ignore it to gain approval, the needle moves a little farther off course. At first, the change is almost invisible. Months or years later, you wake up wondering how you ended up living a life that no longer feels like your own. A healthy relationship should never require one person to erase their ambitions so the other can succeed. The strongest partnerships are built when both people encourage each other's growth. They don't compete with each other's purpose. They protect it. This is where many men confuse compromise with self-abandonment. Compromise means adjusting together so both people can move forward. Self-abandonment means one person keeps giving things up while the other keeps moving ahead unchanged. Those are not the same. Remember this whenever you're faced with a difficult decision. Never trade your purpose for temporary approval. The right relationship will make room for your mission, not ask you to bury it. A life built on your values will always be more fulfilling than a life built on someone else's expectations. The eighth mistake is neglecting the people who stood by you long before the relationship began. It's surprisingly common. A new relationship becomes the center of your world, and little by little you stop calling your closest friends. Family gatherings become optional. The people who supported you for years slowly fade into the background. Plato compared the people around us to the soil in which we grow. Healthy relationships nourish your character. Unhealthy ones can slowly drain it. That's why your support system matters so much. Friends and family provide something no romantic relationship can replace: perspective. They remember who you were before your current relationship. They notice changes you might overlook. And when life becomes difficult, they're often the first people willing to help without expecting anything in return. A Stoic understands that a meaningful life is never built on a single relationship. It's built on a strong network of people who challenge you, encourage you, and keep you grounded. When every emotional need is placed on one person, the relationship carries a weight it was never designed to bear. Protect the connections that have consistently added value to your life. Make time for the friend who always tells you the truth. Visit your family, even when you're busy. Stay connected to the people who celebrate your victories and help you through your failures. The strongest men don't isolate themselves for love. They build relationships that strengthen every important bond in their lives, not just one. The ninth and final mistake is making one person the center of your entire existence. It sounds romantic in movies. In real life, it's one of the fastest ways to lose your identity. Marcus Aurelius warned against allowing anything outside your own character to take control of your inner balance. The moment your happiness, confidence, and purpose depend entirely on one person, you've surrendered the very thing Stoicism teaches you to protect: your own mind. Obsession doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like checking your phone every few minutes, rearranging your entire week around someone else's schedule, losing interest in your goals because all of your attention is focused on one relationship. Little by little, your world becomes smaller. Here's the paradox. People are generally drawn to those who have a full, meaningful life, not to those who abandon everything for them. When you continue growing, learning, pursuing your purpose, and maintaining healthy relationships with others, you bring more to the relationship, not less. Remember this whenever you feel tempted to lose yourself in another person. Love someone deeply. Never love them so completely that you disappear. A stoic man doesn't choose between love and independence. He protects both. He gives affection without giving away his identity, supports his partner without abandoning his purpose, and remains steady whether life brings closeness or distance. The strongest relationships are not built by two incomplete people trying to fill each other's emptiness. They're built by two whole people who choose day after day to walk the same path without asking the other to stop being themselves. The ending and closing sequence. The man in the mirror at the beginning of this video didn't lose himself in a single day. He disappeared one compromise at a time. The good news is that the same process works in reverse. Every boundary you keep, every hour you invest in your purpose, every decision guided by your values brings you back to yourself. Stoicism isn't about becoming cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. It's about becoming so grounded in your character that your relationships are built on respect instead of fear, choice instead of dependency, and growth instead of sacrifice. Because in the end, the strongest connection you'll ever build is the one you have with yourself. Protect that, and every other relationship has a stronger foundation to stand on. Never lose yourself trying to keep someone else. If you found value in these ideas, subscribe for more insights on Stoicism, psychology, and building stronger relationships through timeless wisdom.